So the reason why we've ended up doing this episode today is because I saw on LinkedIn that you were talking about this program, and we'll dive into that into a second. And the reason why I was searching around on LinkedIn, all over the web, was because I was redesigning a course that we run on building a safeguarding culture, and the program that you've got just literally is the definition, as it were, of a safeguarding culture. So could you explain the bare bones of it before we really dive into how it works and how to implement it?
Yeah, of course. I thank you for that, Chris. I think that we worked really hard to get to the point where we could do this. We had to have the reactive side of our safeguarding in place first. So we had to get to a stage where we felt that we were really robust and foreign from a reactive point of view, and that gave us a bit of a platform to be a bit more proactive and preventative and come up with this program. I spoke to staff a lot at the start about young people who are loved at home coming to school to learn, but being aware that some young people, if they don't have that at home, then they're coming to school to be loved and to receive attention and affection. So we looked at what would make this program successful. We came up with a few kind of key things that we felt it had to embody. And the first one was it had to be sequenced, and it had to be sustained. It couldn't be something that was token or a one-off, because we're trying to counteract instability, and we thought it was important to have consistency. We thought it had to be a stable program that ran from year 7 through to year 11 as part of these pupils' normal diet. It had to be normalized, and it had to be something that was a consistent presence. We also felt that it had to link to the whole school ethos. So it not a standalone. It had to bring in all of the elements of the whole school ethos, and encourage people to become part of the community, have that identity and sense of belonging, using that kind of structure that we had and that community that we had already. We felt it had to take steps, and this is something that came a little bit later. But we felt, and after reviewing it after the first year, is that we felt it had to enrich their education and their actual attainment in class. So there had to be a link to, yes, there's this partial support, but how do we then impact how they're doing in the classroom, their confidence in the classroom, and ultimately their outcomes in that sense. So there had to be an academic link to it and an academic element to it. And lastly, we looked at the idea of enriching their school experience. So it was about additional opportunities, whether that was trips or cultural experiences, or trying to find talents and passions that we could create opportunities for the pupils. And that was on the basis that some of the pupils that we were speaking to hadn't had any of these experiences in their upbringing or growing up. So we wanted to just widen their horizons and their ambitions and their aspirations as well. So we said whatever we do, it has to encompass those 4 key elements to start with.
Sounds fascinating, and it's, you know what, you've made it sound easy to implement, but how did you embed this into your school culture?
Yeah, that was a tricky one. We did a lot of training around the experience of these vulnerable young people, and some of the kind of the effect of trauma, the types of trauma that the young people may be facing, and essentially our responsibility to be aware and mindful of that. And then we looked at it from a sense of, sometimes in safeguarding we remove the barriers for these pupils, but actually we need a bit of a rethink here, because we need to accept that some pupils are are experiencing these barriers regardless, and there's things that we can't control as a school. But what we can do is we can support pupils, and kind of, we accept that unfortunately for a group of pupils, instability throughout their school life, or additional trauma and difficulties, they might be inevitable. That it might happen at some stage of their 5 years in the school. So therefore we need to create a structure where we're sharing elements, and we're providing something that will counteract and help them to navigate the barrier. Kind of accepting that we won't be able to remove every barrier, but actually we've got something here where we can navigate it, and essentially keep engagement with that pupil throughout their time here. And when we talk about the how, we linked it through into the whole school ethos, and we looked at specifically providing extra career support for pupils and looking to raise their aspiration, linking what they were doing in their learning to the real world and real life skills. We looked at resilience mentoring and mental health workshops and wellbeing workshops, which we staggered throughout the year, and work on social relationships. We tried to find their passions and talents, and the real difficulty of the program is at no point have we got these pupils together and said, you're part of our vulnerable pupil program. It's something where the opportunities are available to all, but if you drill down into it, every pupil has a slightly different offer depending on what their passions are, their talents are. So some have music lessons, some with work to get them on a sports trip to another country. So it has to be individualized, and it has to be personalized as well. And then we look at the excellence. So we worked on study skills and the learning to learn element and the literacy as something that could then translate into classroom confidence and being able to feel confident to access the learning as well.